we've been playing pretty much the same game this week because a lot of other stuff has come out, like, but we either got code like really late in the week or yeah, that's actually most of the. So we've both got Like a Dragon Ishin that we want to play, or I do want to play that. But I'm just so heavily invested in Atomic Heart at the moment that I didn't want to put it down until like I'm kind of finished it because it's not that long. You have finished it.
I have.
And how long did you think it took?
I think it was about
like 15?
14 to 15 hours. Yeah, that seems about right.
Cool.
It's funny though because we always, I mean, not always, but we've spoken about this before where if a developer says this game is 25 hours long, you're like, just subtract 5 hours. Like a lot of those estimations are always like way too generous. So even that, I was like, no, 15 hours. I did a little bit of side stuff, but I mostly mainlined the game. And I rolled credits in, I'd say about 14 to 15 hours. And yeah, I think the game is not without some problems, but I really enjoyed my time with it. I know I spoke about it last week. You hadn't really played. Oh, wait, you hadn't even touched it last week, I don't think.
I'd played like the intro, essentially. Yeah.
Look, it's a very, I think it's a very unique setting. Like just to recap, it's set in the early 1950s, like an alternate Soviet Russia, where the discovery of polymer has basically catapulted the society to the forefront of technology. This tech lets you learn an entire syllabus, for example, or just it just hands off manual labor to robots so that society can focus on just living and arts and discoveries, whatever. So I think that table setting is really good. But the story itself is wild, which I think you've played enough to know, like, man, this protagonist, P3, very unlikable. And I think even by the end of the game, I still found him very, like, just annoying, I guess. Like a very few times that I actually sympathize with the character. Although they do contextualize and obviously explain like who he is, where he came from. But I don't know, the story feels a little bit all over the place. But yeah, I don't know what your thoughts have been thus far.
Yeah, this protagonist sucks. He's so shit.
He's annoying.
I can't recall the last time I've played a game with a protagonist this unlikable. He's just so unreasonably aggressive all the time.
That's it, yeah. Like for everything, like, there's no middle ground.
It's like if you gave a voice to, I think Darren actually mentioned it, or he had a good word for it early in the week. He was like, this character is what BJ Blazkowicz would have been if Machine Games just didn't understand how to make him a modern action character.
Yeah,
like he is the Doomslayer or BJ Blazkowicz from 1993 given a voice.
Given a full-on like voice performance.
Yeah, like completely oblivious to like rational thought and just any sort of tact. So it gets tiring very quickly because there's no sort of like character growth. You think, oh, okay, he's this gruff, really taking no bullshit stance from the get-go. And over time, him and this polymer glove, that's like this AI companion that you have throughout the game. Charles, yeah, like they're going to, come to terms eventually, and they sort of do. They at least have more human conversations with one another because in the first like 3 hours of the game, every time your glove talks to you, this protagonist P3 is just like so snarky and aggressive towards him. He's basically just like, fuck you, shut up. Yeah. Like, I don't care what you have to say, blah, blah, blah. And it just gets so tiring all the time. So, yeah, I really do not like him. It's a bit much. It's not that fun to constantly hear. And the story so far seems to be okay.
Look, the story is not bad, but it's not. It's
very on the nose.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm finding. Like, everything is so explicitly told to Siri's coming to my aid here.
She's like, yes.
Hello. It's so explicitly told to you without any sort of ambiguity, where BioShock works really well because you're exploring Rapture after a disaster's happened, and you're kind of getting a lot of this environmental storytelling that is kind of informing you of what's happening and what might have transpired here. Here, it's more like the glove is telling you what happened. Like very explicitly, like this happened, this happened, this happened. And the timelines kind of like don't make sense. So you see the disaster starting. You see when the robots turn and attack people. And I don't know, are you like knocked out for like a month? Because I don't understand how everything got so fucked up so quickly.
I don't think it's that long. I think it's a short period of time. It must be pretty quick.
But like all these offices seem like they've been abandoned for months.
Yeah,
like it makes zero sense how it went from 0 to 100 so quickly. So yeah, everything seems to be accelerated on this timeline that really doesn't make that much sense, and it just kind of pulls you out of the moment because you feel out of place.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, it just seems to be a very basic like scientist doesn't trust government doesn't trust scientists. You are the like scapegoat in this entire thing. And that's kind of it. The window dressing on the side, like you were saying, is very good. I think it looks really good. It looks the part. It's got a very good sense of place in this like retro futuristic USSR. Like what the future would look like if people in the 50s could make that happen based on what they knew. I think one of the coolest things, which isn't even a gameplay thing, one of the coolest things I've come across is how they have radios that predict music from the future. So they have like music that sounds almost like it would be in place here, but there's like a paradox with that because by listening to that music, it influences what the future of music would be because it would influence current artists. So it keeps changing, which is kind of neat. I thought that was quite a cool idea.
Yeah, the music in this game, real good.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's phenomenal.
I think the best part of this game is its combat. I think it's really crunchy and really feels great and got a good balance between melee and range. So you've played around with far more weapons than I have. So does it keep evolving in a satisfying way?
I think, look, you unlock a lot of stuff pretty quickly depending on how much exploring you do. So I reached a point where eventually I had my standard set of weapons and I just upgraded them. So I was telling you before we started recording, I ditched this axe that you see in the gameplay footage now for a short blade that I upgraded that I could, it gave me like a ranged option with this blade. And it was very satisfying to use throughout the whole game. And the same goes for the weapons. Like they are old school, if I could, for lack of a better term. You get kind of like an old school pistol, an AK-47, a shotgun. But it definitely has a weight to it, especially the melee combat. I think it's really good. Like there are times when you finish an enemy off and just the way your weapon moves, you'll like slice them in half or slice their head off. And I think there's been a lot of attention paid to that, and it does feel very good.
Yeah, 100%. The melee stuff is nice. I think the inventory management is slightly cumbersome, but it's not like awful. Like in the heat of a fight, I can get to the weapons I want. I think so it has a version of like Bioshock's plasmids. It's just your polymer abilities.
Yeah.
That stuff is weirdly laid out. Like you've got shock, which is like your electric attack, which is almost like a primary ability. Yeah. So that's always mapped, irrespective of what you have.
That was very confusing for me.
So confusing.
When you unlock your first alternate ability, like equip it. I'm like, okay, I've equipped it, but I can still use my shock. It was very strange.
So shock is always there. It's just on triangle or on Y or whatever. And then you can only have 2 polymer abilities equipped at a time, which is also very strange. Like you don't just have an inventory for them. So you can swap between those, you can switch them out. But if you basically should only invest in 2 of them because other ones are just going to sit in your, in your gear folder or whatever, and you're never going to have access. Whereas Bioshock had like a radial menu for your plasmids. I just don't understand the thinking here. But it does force you to hone in on using 2 that kind of work in conjunction with shock really well. So right now I've got the polymer shield, which I picked specifically just to get past a boss. And I've got this like mass telekinesis, so I can like levitate a bunch of enemies around me in the air and then press it again, and it like brings them to the ground with some force because I've upgraded it, which is really nice because like while they're in the air, I can actually shoot them and then bring them down to the ground and then hit them a bit. So I can like pick apart powerful enemies very quickly. And then if I've just upgraded shock quite a bit, so it's quite like potent. There's not that many abilities to choose from, and some of them just don't seem that exciting to me. So I think we were talking before the show, Frostbite is a bit weird. You were saying it comes more into play near the end of the game, but
like
currently it's like
it's
weird to me because it's like it's very explicit about this is only used to immobilize enemies, and if you hit enemies while they're frozen, they actually take reduced damage. And it just accelerates the time that they thaw out. So it is mostly about keeping enemies in place, not like keeping them in place and doing loads of damage very quickly. That's like not what it's. There's a polymer jet one, which is strange. I've tried it a bit.
I never used it.
It feels like you need like a bunch of weapons with elemental abilities to make that thing useful. So it basically coats enemies in like polymer liquid. Nice. You can envision how that comes out of your hand, how it looks. And then it basically accentuates like fire, electricity, and frost abilities. So a lot of your guns, you can upgrade them to have a canister holder. And that means you can then attach a canister to a gun that gives it fire, frost, or electricity damage. Like I've got fire on my shotgun quite a bit because I think it's quite effective. So I guess that just makes that better. But it seems like, again, when you've only got 2 slots, you've got to be very picky about like, okay, this is only situational if I have weapons with this thing. So it's kind of a pointless use of a slot if I do not have weapons with fire or electricity currently. So yeah. I don't know what any of the others are.
I think you've basically covered all of them.
There's not
a
many.
huge selection of like
because then there's character abilities, and then there's abilities that you can upgrade to make your energy bar bigger, which is like what your energy weapons draw from instead of bullets. So, and usually, the 2 weapons I have that draw from that, they kill that bar so fucking quickly that it seems pointless to try and like extend that, to be honest, because I don't know how much more I can do with that. So but it still feels cool. Like I feel very empowered when using those abilities and using it in conjunction with like a shotgun or an axe. It feels good. It looks good as well. I do agree with you now. The open world areas do not look as good.
No.
And they aren't as fun to play.
No. There is, it's kind of like one big hub that you kind of go in and out of, depending where you're on the story. It feels very like, I think when you first go out, you're like, oh my God, like how big is this game? There's so much to do. Everything kind of looks the same. It's just a big open world, rolling green hills and trees, and it looks very samey.
There's stuff to do. Like I like the little puzzle rooms that you do to get upgrades for your guns. I think that's cool.
But visually, just in general, you know, the tighter, more like hand carved areas, for lack of a better description.
The main story areas are a lot better.
They look phenomenal. Like I think the art direction in this game is stellar. It looks good. The architecture is like chef's kiss. That opening, everything's so grand and like reaching to the sky. And now you come out of the, you know, if you're watching the footage, you're in a car flying down from a floating platform. It looks good. Like the table setting of this game is phenomenal. Like I really.
It runs really well. It runs at like 60 all the time. Like it's. And I was watching. So Digital Foundry put out a video yesterday, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this thing's running at 4K, like straight up." So
sure.
It looks good. Like it looks sharp. It's got great lighting. It runs really great, which is good for the combat. So yeah, it's cool.
Just to go back to the combat, did you ever find that the aiming was too sensitive?
Yes.
Like
I've turned it down.
Yeah, it's a thing of Most games have a thing of when you're aiming in general, there's one sensitivity, but the moment you aim down sight, it's a lower sensitivity. This game doesn't have that. I feel like I aim down sight and it's still the same. Me like
yeah, and the acceleration is way off because usually there's like a curve. So like as you're moving to the right to aim, it slows and then accelerates. So if you're making fine adjustments, you can do that. This one is just linear. It's just like whoop,
it just goes.
It feels super weird. It's there's a lot of like settings things in this game that like irk me a little bit. There's also I don't know how many you ran into, but I've run into a bunch of bugs that are a bit frustrating. Like I've had some visual bugs every now and then, which I'm like, okay, that's fine. Things popping in like in and out of existence right in front of me. But yesterday I had a bug where the little log that comes up on the side when you've just looted things and it shows you what you looted
it
didn't disappear. Yeah. So it just stayed there forever. And I was like, cool, that's great.
I've had no real bugs. There was one where, weirdly, I ran into an area and then every 10 seconds my game froze for like 2 seconds.
Oh,
I was
hectic.
like, oh no. I just reloaded.
Did you ever have an enemy T-pose in front of you?
No. I would have loved that.
I literally had you know how often the white like humanoid robots run at you?
Oh yeah.
And as they get to you, they do like a drop kick. 9 times out of 10, this guy, he ran at me, and at the point where he was going to do the drop kick because I was ready to dodge, he just froze and T-posed, and I was like, "What the fuck just happened?"
I had it before where that weapon I told you about, where it's got like the melee weapon's got a ranged attack. If I used that as they were about to do like that jump kick, they would like just fall. It was hilarious. I should have recorded it. Yeah, it's
a good time. Little bugs aside, I'm still having a great time with this game.
I think look, I think
it's fun,
and it's on Game Pass. So if you're on Xbox or PC,
it's apparently not phenomenal on Xbox. There's hella bugs on Xbox. Yeah,
Yikes.
So maybe wait for a patch or two because it is. We have played the significantly more smooth version on PlayStation. Xbox is not in a great space right now, but again, it's on Game Pass, so not great.
Yeah, I imagine it's not great.
Yeah. It even runs on the original Xbox One. It's on PS4 as well, which is kind of insane to me.
That is crazy. Yeah. What does that even look like?
Not great.
My goodness.
Not good. Yeah. It's a fun game. Like you said, I have issues with it just like you do. I think the difficulty is a bit uneven sometimes. There's like certain parts where I'm just rolling through and then a boss will just absolutely plant me, and I'll just be stuck there and I'm like, I
think my closing thoughts is that it's not without its issues, but overall I really enjoyed my time with it.
It's a good time. Yeah, it's a good time. I would have a lot better time with a better protagonist. I swear to God, the first 3 hours, I was like, I don't know if I can play this game with this guy talking as much as he talks. But thankfully, he tapers off. Because, boy, those first 2 hours they were killing me. I was just like, this is so annoying. I think the last time we spoke about an annoying protagonist was when we were talking about Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn. And this is magnitudes worse. Aloy is fine. Aloy is like slightly irksome because of her personality in that game. Like she feels higher than everyone and she comes off as like, I know everything, you need to listen to me. So this guy is just an asshole.
He's just a complete asshole.
Straight up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Atomic Heart.
Good time.